25 minutes before 11 o'clock. It's time for Damage Control. Joe Reichel just jumped into the studio, and he's ready to answer your questions about what might be done to make that house of yours that got damaged complete again and fixed. And, boy, I slaughtered that intro, didn't I? The phone number right now, if you'd like to speak to Joe about something going on, maybe in your home, maybe in somebody's home that you know, is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-WOCA. And in the course of this interview, you'll find out the phone number to Damage Control Services. Write it down, put it on a magnet, stick it on the refrigerator, and call when something happens, and pray that it never happens.
I hope it never happens. I'm the guy. I hope you never have to call.
It's an interesting, that's an interesting piece of wisdom, isn't it?
Well, and that's the thing. Typically when someone calls me, it is for something bad. I mean, we do new construction. Additions, remodels, things like that.
Which is going to be fun.
Whenever I get a phone call in the afternoon or early in the morning, it's one of those things where
No, that's not fun.
No.
That part.
Well, I mean, just because, typically someone has a problem, and whenever they call, it's not a good thing, so.
It says here you were on the roof with a chainsaw cutting a tree.
Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, evening-ish, we had that quick storm come through. And my brother-in-law Rob, he got a phone call, and that was one of the Facebook pictures. They let me use the chainsaw.
Were you in the rain? I mean, did you wait for the storm to pass?
It was a quick storm went through, and there was minimal damage, thankfully, but we went out there and cut the tree off of the home, just in order to get the branches. There was minimal amount on the home. Thankfully, a lot of times we'll have to call in a tree company, in order to come in and have them do the work to get it off the house. But this one was something small enough we were able to cut the limbs that were on the home, and there was a hole about the size of a small desk, or I guess an office desk, in the roof.
That's a large hole.
Well, not really.
Really?
Not really. And that's the thing. Typically, when a tree hits your house, when a tree comes down, it's going to create a hole that's size of a car or bigger. So this one was just through the plywood. It went between two trusses, so it was 2 foot wide and probably about 4 foot long hole.
So if you're going to have a hole, that's the kind to have.
Yeah, it was a good hole. It
don't break the trusses.
It didn't break any trusses. We're on one right now. We had to tear the roof of the home off, over half of the roof. Well, probably about a third of the roof. We had to pull all the plywood back, the shingles and the plywood, in order to replace trusses. So, because they were damaged to the point that they had to be replaced and not just repaired.
Yeah.
So, that's an extensive amount of damage compared to this one. And we had to get...
now I understand why you say it's small.
Right.
Wow.
This was an easy fix. We were out there, I got the chainsaw and cut the limbs off.
So it's fixed already?
No.
Okay.
He still needs to get his insurance and everything as far as taking care of it. There was minimal rain damage went in, and we were able to dry it in and keep it.
You know what? It occurred
safe.
To me. I was watching the news from the tornadoes out in Oklahoma, the area that got hit several times, twice or three times.
Twice that I know of.
I didn't see anybody say this, but I would imagine there are some people there who say, you know what, I'm moving. I'm not going to live here anymore. And can you imagine, they didn't get hit at all, but they moved because they had these stories like double, triple whammies. So they moved to Florida. and I don't think there's a safe place on the planet.
Well, there's we have a lot of people that have moved north after, Hurricane Andrew hit.
Right. So,
we understand that, as far as people moving or going to a safer spot, but
then you have snow. You've heard of snow just pulling in somebody's roof, just collapsing. So
there's as far as natural disasters, there's all kinds, and everywhere really can be affected by them. Areas less that there is less damage, but.
Did you happen to see the story of the people at the credit union in Oklahoma in Moore, Oklahoma, the one a couple weeks ago.
Mm-mm.
They went into the safe, into the vault, I should say,
Okay.
and survived because of that.
Very good.
The entire bank or credit union, whatever, the entire thing was basically splinters. The only thing standing was the vault that protected them.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that really does show the
So why don't we
value
build everything?
of, and that's it. It shows the value of having storm rooms or storm shelters, safe areas in a home
Good point,
that you can
yeah.
go to. I was talking with a lady yesterday, and she wants to have installed on her home hurricane shutters because she has a large glass window.
Right.
And really there's nowhere safe. She didn't feel safe in her home in case of. And she does have one interior room. It's a bathroom that would probably be the safest area for her in the event of a storm.
Yeah.
But, I mean, your safest bet is always to evacuate if you can.
And go someplace
and that's
safer.
One advantage that we have of hurricanes, for example. We can always, you can always evacuate to another area. You don't have that luxury with tornadoes and things like that.
Yeah, right. And with
or you don't have much advanced warning anyway.
Right, very little.
Right.
Yeah. The phone number right now, if you'd like to speak to Joe, is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-WOCA. There was a news thing this morning that you just reminded me of, and I wanted to share it with you.
Excellent.
It was issued by Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, and basically she says they are currently investigating companies across the state that have been advertising window films as a way to protect the house from hurricane-force winds. The Florida Building Commission has not approved window film as a form of hurricane protection. Therefore, it cannot legally be advertised as offering hurricane protection. The only other thing I wanted to read from this article was that in order for the Florida Building Commission to approve a product designed for a window, the product must be part of the complete window system and assembly.
Oh, wow.
So I guess if you get a call or respond to an ad to protect your... we talked a couple of times about...
We have, and it's one of those things where, a lot of times people will put tape on their window.
Right.
In order, and the only thing that does is if blunt force, like a limb or something, debris gets blown against that window and hits it, it'll keep it from shattering into the house in thousands of pieces. It'll help to keep it more together, as far as keep all the glass together. Keep it from breaking? No. And that's the same with window film.
Right.
Window film will not prevent the glass from breaking because it's on the inside. But it will prevent all of those shards of glass from going everywhere in the home. So
I think the wording is what is at issue here.
Yes.
The folks who are selling that are selling a good product, we presume, right?
Yeah.
But the state attorney, whatever her title is again, Attorney General Pam Bondi. She's a pretty lady, by the way. Have you ever seen her?
I don't know that I have.
So young. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, but all these people who are official are looking really good and young. So I don't know. But anyway, so apparently, if giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, it's a good product. Probably does exactly like you said, prevents the glass from going all over the place.
Right.
So they just need to
advertise differently. It's not going to keep the window from breaking.
Right.
Which, kind of is this... and that could just be the assumption that people are... false advertising. A little bit of false advertising.
It is the advertising, apparently, that they're targeting.
People are being misled in how it'll protect them.
We've got to be careful as an advertising agency. Mm-hmm. I mean, how would we know?
Right.
If some guy with a good product comes and advertises on the air, and we voice it. Let's say Joe says, Larry, put your voice on this one, and I do, and I say, hey, the film's going to stop the glass from breaking. I guess I have to call you.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll say, is this stuff really going to work?
Call Joe, your lawyer, right?
But anyway,
and that's the thing. All of the, like even we were talking about the doors, for example, for the WOCA project in the mall that we're working on,
right.
And all projects. If we go to get a permit on a project, we've got to make sure that the products that we're using to rebuild all follow or are approved by the Florida Building Code. That they all products have a Florida approval code.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's part of what is approved whenever you get a permit, to make sure that everything you're using is all approved, and that it will withstand the codes, up to the code specifications.
Wow. Have you? I mean, do you get what you pay for? Have you witnessed that something that is approved, but is $1.99, is not as good as something that's approved that's $199?
Well, there's always. I mean, that's one of those value things.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of times people they want something, but they can't. They would like this, but can only afford this, and you'll get out of it. What you put into it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, we've talked about, paint, for example. Paint will last several years, or you can get the better quality paints for a home that will last you 10 plus years. Even with shingles. Shingles have a lifespan, and with the Florida heat, it lessens that lifespan. But if you get a shingle that has a higher lifespan, it's going to last longer. It will cost you more, but it'll last longer. Mm-hmm. So that's like any project or building product.
So do you have a preferred shingle, or do you have a preferred product that you just like if you're a mechanic, you might recommend a certain oil or
a certain brand?
Yeah, I mean, are there certain companies that really always seem to have the good stuff?
Not really.
No.
None that's coming to mind for me, right now. And there's always, new things.
What about that yellow wood?
Out.
What is that yellow wood?
Well, yellow wood is a pressure treated lumber for outdoor construction, like building a deck or something where you'd be using where it'd be out in the weather.
Okay.
Yellow wood's a good product. But I mean, there's also other pressure-treated lumber that's
just as good.
That's just as good. It's just an advertising. They put a lot into an advertising campaign to make it a good product. To sell more.
There was a story last week after going back to the tornadoes in Oklahoma that a professor from the University of Florida was flying out to Oklahoma to study the damage, so that we could maybe understand better how to build homes that would withstand tornadoes.
Right.
And I was trying to imagine how looking at a shamble of toothpicks and splinters can tell you anything. I'm just amazed that they can even understand anything by looking at a mess.
Well, probably, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But probably looking more at the outskirts of the damage. The outer lying areas where it's not damaged as bad.
Yeah.
You can compare more of what, the way the weather affected or the winds affected certain types of structures better than you can right in, the eye of the storm, for example.
So maybe there's more of a lesson in the things that were not damaged.
Right.
Like that.
Or, that
vault.
withheld certain, held up to a certain point maybe. So it really is hard to say.
And do you see, in all the work that you've done, do you see, like let's say you get a call about a tree that fell in a house. Do you automatically say to yourself, gosh, I hope it's a blank house because those hold up better or something?
Not really.
No.
Not really.
So a block house versus
one of the one tree job that we were just talking about, it's a huge job. We had to tear off, a lot of the roof. In order to get down to it. It was a block home, but the way when the tree hit, it pivoted on the block wall. It was a small enough tree that it pivoted on the block wall and just did roof damage. It didn't damage the block wall.
Okay, gotcha.
But you think about that home that we've talked about down here on 7th.
Right.
Northeast 7th.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I drove by that this week. That is a block home, but it looks like you took a wrecking ball to the side of that garage.
Sure does.
Where the tree actually just crushed the entire block wall. So really, it depends on the size of the tree.
It's hard to believe anybody lived through that.
It depends, and they were on the other side of the house. Thankfully, it hit the garage side. So pretty much, it depends on the size of the tree, where it hits in the house. All these things are have lead to questions. When the hurricanes came through this area in 04, 05, we were working on a home for a friend of ours, and we called a structural engineer in to estimate the damage. And she had a very large oak tree hit this home, and the structural engineer, was basically telling us what had to be taken apart and rebuilt because it is a wood frame home. And whenever the tree, the force of that tree falling racked walls that were considerably farther away than what you would think, just because of it being a wood frame home and the size of the tree. I mean, this was a tree that was, you and I couldn't put our hands around. We'd need to get Joe and Dan in here to hold
That's
hands.
Huge.
It was a huge oak tree. So, that's one of those things where, it really depends on what it is, where it hits, and, what the home is made out of.
So the answer to the question that might be asked before building a home, which is going to protect me the most, going back to that Three Little Pigs story we did once before. That's where you say, you know what? There is no real answer to that question.
Well, and that's where a lot more is involved. We've talked before about maintenance of your home, making sure that, in order to prevent damage from happening, such as keeping your gutters clean to keep water from coming in, or trimming the trees back that are in your yard, having someone come in and evaluate the tree, the health of the tree, have an arborist look it over and make sure that everything is okay with the health of the tree, so that when the wind comes in or whether it's not going to just fall down on the house.
The phone number to call right now, if you have a question for Joe, is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-9622. And the other Joe Martone, staying right here, handed me a note. He wants you to talk about the grand opening of the rebuild of the Be Wick store.
That's the Be Quick.
Be Quick store.
The Be Quick.
Okay. After the
Food
fire.
Mart.
This store in Dunellen?
Yeah, that's the Dunellen store. We finished it 2 weeks ago, and had the grand opening this past Friday. And it's been open now for 2 weeks. So he's the owner, Zolf Licani. He's had a wonderful grand opening. We had a lot of our ambassadors here from the CEP come over and represent the Ocala, Marion County, and then we had the Dunellen City of Dunellen Mayor Witt. He came and spoke, and it was real nice to have him express personally what it meant to him to have the store back open. So a lot of that store is located just north of Dunellen on Highway 41, real close to the Winn-Dixie Shopping Plaza, which is where you turn to go to the KP hole.
Yes.
So a lot of people have used that convenience store in the past to get beverages and snacks before going
to the river,
going out on the river, or gas for their boat or whatever. And so it was really neat to hear all of the people in the community, how thankful they were that place was open back up.
This has nothing to do with rebuilding a home, but what is the mayor's first name? Was it Larry? Is it my name?
It could be.
Well, here's
I don't.
Okay, well,
I could look it up.
There used to be.
It is Witt, though. Last name is Witt.
And my last name is Whitler.
Nathan. Nathan Witt, I think.
Okay. But there used to be a mayor there named Larry Whitney, I think.
Okay.
I think, and I am Larry Whitler, and I had a call one time asking me about the city council meeting, and I said, "Well, hold on, I got to look it up." and I came back, and because I didn't know that the guy was named similar to me.
Okay.
And they thought I was him. They thought that the guy on the radio was the guy who's the mayor of Dunellen. So then I came back. I said, I don't have that information. How can you be the mayor? And I said, I'm not the mayor. What would you think I'm the mayor? It's one of those weird. And I had to look it up. Who's the mayor of Dunellen?
A mistaken identity.
Yeah.
Well, at least you weren't in trouble.
Yeah.
Or, for something he did.
For something he did, that's right, yeah. Well, I could use a few rumors in my life, I think.
There you go.
Okay, so when you are fixing something like a hole in a roof, and you have to climb up there, is your safety at jeopardy? I mean, how do you know that the integrity of the remaining roof hasn't been compromised to the point that your safety is at question. You know what I mean?
That is a good question. It really depends on what you're looking at. A lot of times we'll get underneath and assess the damage before we ever get on a roof. We'll look at, make sure. And it really, you can kind of tell because, we've had ones where the trees are down through the roof, and we'll have to get a crane in there in order to lift the tree off, and or whatever the situation is. A lot of times we go into a fire. There's been, there's extensive damage, and you've got stuff hanging, and the first thing you've got to do is clean all this stuff up that's hanging and causing, could possibly cause more damage. So you need to always be careful in going into these, disasters.
This may be dumb, but would a 2-story building be less likely to have roof damage from a tree, since it's about as tall as the tree?
I guess it really depends on the size of the building and the size of the trees. But we've had here in town. It wasn't a job we worked on, but one that another restoration company went to, where a tree fell into the side of a condo or an apartment complex.
Oh, wow!
And totally crushed the side wall.
So
2-story,
3 doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. And that's where, any type of damage.
Joe just had me
another note.
Nathan Witt is the mayor.
I thought so. Nathan Witt. Yep. Great guy, young guy. He, it was a real honor to meet him and, talk with him, and he had some very nice expressions to make about the store being open and how thankful he was for it.
You mentioned at the beginning how the call that you get is not good news. It's always like somebody distraught, somebody who's, what do? My house is ruined, or at least part of it is ruined. The opposite side of it, though, has to be as you're getting close to the end, and maybe at the end, like, for example, the store in Dunellen.
Well, yeah, and those, I talked to the owner Friday, and then talked to him again yesterday, and he's just ecstatic over... I
would be, too.
Over how, and how much people are telling him how much they like the store and how, grateful they are, so it's a good thing. I think it was Thursday, I get a phone call from a dear friend of mine. She's got water pouring down her wall, and she's got a 2-story house.
What is it with women and water?
Frantic females with floods. Those are good referrals for me.
Men don't have that happen, huh?
Well, typically the wife takes care of the home.
I got you.
Her husband's off at work, and he left. She's stuck to take care of this. So.
Call this guy I heard on the radio.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, but she called me Thursday with this. What do I do, Joe? And we were able to get a plumber out there and find out that it was the toilet. Every time they would flush, the water was coming out the tank, the back of the tank. It was overflowing.
Oh.
So, the water's coming down her second, through the wall and down her second story into the dining room. And I went there, and we were able to set up the equipment, and got the plumber there to find the problem and then fix it, and then we got her dried out over the weekend. Set a dehumidifier and fans up in order to dry the area.
So you were able to save it without replacing wood?
Yep.
Oh wow, that's good.
No drywall had to be replaced.
That's good news.
There will be, she'll need to do a little bit of painting, caulk and paint the trim, but we were able to dry it out. And that's, we check it, the moisture levels. We'll use moisture meters in order to check and make sure that, before we set up the equipment, that we actually need to set up equipment.
Right.
And then, afterwards we'll check it again to make sure we've got it dried.
We've got about a minute left. Joe, what is your phone number?
My phone number is area code 352-817-6574, or you can call our office number. That's 622-5135. And then my email is joe@damageflorida, all spelled out, damageflorida.com.
And once again, there are numerous places where you can get advice if you need it on how to prepare for the hurricane season that began 3 days ago.
Prepared people recover faster.
That's a good motto.
Everybody needs to be prepared. We are going into hurricane season.
The prediction last year was so accurate. as far as the number. I mean, I think they were off by 3. And yet we don't think they were accurate because none came on land. Not here, anyway.
Right.
You know, they obviously Hurricane Sandy had a big, gigantic impact. But for us here, we say, every year they give us this big warning, and we don't see anything. But they do happen. We lucked out. You know?
We did.
We're blessed, I guess you could say.
We're liable to get, we're liable to have storms this year. That's why we got to be ready.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you for what you do and for coming in here to help us understand it.
I enjoyed it.
We'll take a little break, and we'll be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala. ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. A major recall from Ford. More than 450,000 vehicles are being recalled because of a potential fuel tank leak that could cause fires. Vehicles involved include the 2013 Explorer, Taurus, Fusion, and Flex, along with 3 Lincoln models.